What a whirlwind of emotions it's been over the past couple of days. Just the pure reaction from the previous podcast, all about the policies that Meta have changed, have been absolutely overwhelming. And I can't thank you guys enough for interacting on that part. And it's been asking the questions, getting involved, because that's ultimately the podcast. That's what it was designed for, was to really just so that everyone could have a fair opportunity, essentially like a campfire kind of vibe, right? Is to initiate the honest and open conversations that we're meant to have as hunters in our community, and hopefully bring it up and have good, honest discussions and better ourselves at it, and being able to supply the information across my platform on some of key talking points within the industry is something very, very special. So I want to thank everyone for interacting, asking the questions, and getting involved with the last episode of the podcast, which was very, very appreciative. Which has led me into more topics of discussion. A couple of years ago, and when I say a couple of years ago, probably about a year or two ago, it was a very broad question that I was asked, and some individual came onto my platform and just left me a very simple question, and it was all about hunting the ultimate, the grey ghost. Now, as far as I can remember, as being a professional hunter now for a little over 15 years, it is, the grey ghost has been seen as one of the ultimate prized possessions in South Africa, more specifically, especially the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape Kudu, smaller horn size, a little bit bigger in body stature than their bigger brother, the Southern Greater. However, it's one of those animals that just keep you coming back for more. It's a iconic species on the dark continent, and an individual just asked me a very simple question: how does one go about hunting a kudu? And since that day, we have, as professional hunters, we have many, many discussions around the bonfire, the campfire, and some good, some bad. You learn from one another, and you incorporate different techniques in how you hunt specific bulls in the area, and it differs from area to area. We're very, very fortunate here in the Eastern Cape for having such a broad variety of conditions, of terrain, mountainous, bushveld areas. But so I'm here to address one of the more frequently asked questions in my professional hunting career, is that how do we hunt the elusive grey ghost? So for years, the professional hunting industry has seen the elusive grey ghost, the kudu, as being one of the more hidden gems of our African bushveld. Now, what I mean by this is that it takes technique, it takes understanding, and most importantly, it takes careful planning and knowledge. Now, I've been very fortunate in my very short career, I would call it, for 15 years, that learning from some of the more iconic kudu hunters. If I look back at some of the individuals that I've learned from and understood hunting, I mean, you open up the Roland Award book, and some of the records that are still held today by the likes of guys like Ashley King, Jerry Phillips, just to name a very few, Greg Hayes. Those conversations have happened around many. With Greg, I remember having a conversation with him at the Cape Town 10. So as much as a rugby field, we have the simple conversations. But I've been very fortunate enough to learn and understand that listening to these individuals, listening to these professional hunters that have been around the block, that have understood, nobody understands the East Cape Kudu bulls better than what those individuals do. And I've been very, very fortunate to learn from them and put it into practice, what I've heard, and what I understood of being traditional kudu hunts, right? So like most of my podcasts, has been a general theme now without having guests on, that I've pretty much prepared myself for this kind of discussion, and I'm going to keep referring back to my tablet, so I do apologize about that. However, it just helps me keep track with what's on topic, and I don't waffle off a little bit like I have done in the past. But anyway, so first things first, one of the most important things we have to do and really come to grips with is understanding the East Cape Kudu bull. So for my first couple of years, I think I learned the hard way more often than not on a species like the kudu. I learned a lot of hard lessons there, a lot of bust, a lot of frustrating hunts. There's nothing more overwhelming than getting back to camp and you've set your sights on a massive kudu bull in the area, especially during the rut period, because generally he will be in that vicinity chasing the females again the very next morning. However, sometimes, more often than not, when I was in my younger professional hunting days, the exhilaration, the anticipation, and the impatient behavior I had led to a lot of bust and unsuccessful hunts. And it doesn't make you a bad professional hunter. Let me get that out there. You learn a lot more in a very more frustrating way. I hope that's the right English for that. But so for me personally, what I've learned and what I've taken in the past 15 years of understanding the kudu is that kudu tend to move during the early morning hours and late in the evening, especially in the cooler weathers or during overcast and rainy conditions. In the morning, I tend to find their movements are often directed towards places of comfort, such as a sunny spot or on a cold winter's day, so sunning themselves along a hillside, and then slowly grazing by midday into the early hours of the afternoon, where they will head down and bed for a short period of time, and then once the heat subsides and the sun starts to set and that dusk starts heading over, start moving again and foraging in the evening towards points of forage. So a lot of the time, a good reference point, especially in the dry winter days, is an alfalfa land, a lucerne land, or any sort of patch of grass that you could see, that, or even acacia trees with a little bit more leaves on. Normally during the middle of winter, there's none of that around. But kudu are browsers and grazers, so they'll generally feed along the tips of the trees or graze along some of the nourishable hillsides into areas where they will either find comfort in feeding areas. So generally early morning, very early morning, as the sun starts to rise, I have found with what I've experienced over the past couple of years is that kudu will generally move towards sunny patches and get into that comfort zone of warming themselves up for the rest of the day, but also in the same breath heading to a place of rest, where they'll bed down during the heat of the day, during the midday sun, and then slowly but surely here, normally we like to be in the bush at around about 3:30, just so that we can catch them feeding out of those places of comfort into places of forage. Their behavior during the rut. Dominant bulls establish routines around their selected females. Pretty much what we've just discussed. So that would normally be a general theme that a bull would follow with these females. They would typically use the same feeding areas, water sources until the rut concludes. Now, this doesn't mean once the bull settles in that area, it doesn't mean that the females are going to come to him. No, that bull's going to go out and look for his herd of females and then develop a pattern around that. When asked the question, are kudu bulls territorial? My first response is yes, but also no. So yes, in that the older, more dominant bulls tend to hang around a certain area out of the rut, and then once the rut happens, they'll move off, not often vast distances, but they'll move off and go and find their herd of females to hang around. But also no, because sometimes you might get those bigger bulls traveling around trying to find a new spot to be a little bit more dominant than what they were the prior season. So sometimes you might get a territorial bull that will hang around in the area, and he will often, if females often come into those areas, those will be his females, and he'll protect it with everything he's got. But also there are possibilities for bigger bulls and the older generational bulls to maybe go and find new and better places of forage. Generally speaking, what I have experienced is that if you carry on seeing that bull in that area, and then during the rut he might vanish for a few months while he finds his females, he'll generally come back. I have seen that before, and that often opens up a window of opportunity to hunt that particular bull if you just carry on, keep watching him. Sometimes a lot of things might happen. Greenery might come in early at a certain section of another farm. What I mean by that is the acacia trees, which is their staple diets, especially here in this area. They will move to that area and start grazing on those acacia trees, and most possibly make that home until the later parts of the season. So the question that gets asked is, what area? And I'm gonna bring this down to the Eastern Cape, because like I said, if I had to compare kudu hunting between the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Limpopo, and all these other different places, KwaZulu-Natal, I am very, very biased to the Eastern Cape. You guys know this. Those of you that have listened to the podcast for some time now will know I'm a very biased Eastern Cape professional hunter. I'm not slamming any of the other regions. I think as a hunter, to come out and hunt kudu, you have to experience it from all corners of South Africa. You have to. Because there's something very special about that, right? The way we hunt them here in the Eastern Cape is completely different to the Northern Cape, Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and those sort of areas. So my knowledge from those hunts up north is a lot less limited, or is a lot limited compared to I've hunted so many bulls down here in the Eastern Cape. So my knowledge of the Eastern Cape Kudu is a lot better than the Southern Greaters. But I do love experiencing that. And it's a very special hunt either way. So where to find the bigger bulls? Now, our area specifically, Queenstown, we have had many theories around this particular topic. We have been very, very fortunate. I know a couple of years ago in the Kumga region, I think there was like a 61-inch kudu bull that was shot. In my typical area here in Queenstown, there are a couple of good farms around here that I know, and I have personally witnessed. My kudu bull hanging on the wall is 51 inches. There have been bulls shot from 55 to 56 inch. Very, very rare occasions. You guys need to remember that a typical East Cape Kudu bull, anything from 45 inches and up, is a very, very good representation. Even from 40 inches, you can get those very special kudu. That's the beauty about a kudu, is that not one is ever going to be 100% the same. Like I've got a perfect figure 8 kudu bull. I've only ever shot one in my life. I've shot many with clients, but one personally I've ever taken. He's 51 inches. He's hanging on my wall. He's a perfect figure 8 kudu bull. Now, my biggest dream now is to go and shoot a nice big flaring bull. I would love a flaring kudu bull. It's just one of those species of antelope that you would always want to come back and shoot again. Shoot a different shape. For me, size really doesn't matter. I would be just as happy if I shot a flaring 44-inch kudu bull than what I am with my 51-inch kudu bull hanging on the wall. So for me, size really doesn't matter. It's all about how the hunt happened and, of course, the experience I had behind it. So one of the theories that have come in, so like I said, generally anything from 45 inches and up, Queenstown area, we've been very fortunate that we have shot more than our fair share of 51-inch or 50-inch kudu bulls and up. And the theory behind that is a lot of the game farms in the surrounding areas have brought these southern graded genetics into their herds, and as time goes on and opportunities present themselves, these kudu have got out and kind of spread their genes across the East Cape herds, and now we are finding on a more regular basis bigger and better kudu. Is this a bad thing? I personally don't think so. There have been a couple of discussions that I've been a part of, from conservancies to private game owners and all that sort of stuff, where guys have completely different opinions about this, and preserving the historic and the natural East Cape kudu to now having this hybrid East Cape Southern Greater mix. So there are very different perspectives across the board, which is completely understandable. However, for us as hunters, and I'm sure for a lot of conservationists out there and stuff, it's actually quite a unique episode that's kind of happening before us, and I think it's quite cool personally. I know a lot of guys are going to disagree with me that, but we have seen massive incline in numbers as far as kudu are concerned. I personally think the Eastern Cape are some of the best kudu management programs there are. Yes, like every industry, you're going to get those guys that abuse the system and abuse what has been given to them, but you have more, there's more majority of the individuals out there, from conservancies to private landowners to game farmers, whatever it may be, that are actually preserving their kudu numbers, and it's doing very, very well for the Eastern Cape population. We've got a thing that gets launched. It's a document that gets launched every season. It's called a proclamation, and I'm not going to quote what is always on the proclamations, because I think it differs from time to time, from landowner to landowner. I think there were like 5 kudu bulls per 1,000 hectares, which will be, so, I could be wrong. I don't even know what it is this year, but I know somewhere along the line the proclamation will be released and circled, and we'll have our hands on that. So we'll know a little bit. So, cool. So now we've highlighted that, especially the Queenstown area. I know the Kunge is rich with very good kudu bulls. And then your Fort Beaufort, your Committee's Drift area, that's a very unique hunt on its own. The kudu, I personally believe, don't get very big there. That side, I'm talking horn lengthwise. But the uniqueness of that kudu bull, the experience of hunting those kudu in the speckboom, in the wash, dried out riverbeds, along the shale, it's a very unique experience compared to what we have here, where normally most of the time we are hunting these kudu bulls in the mountains and walking over these big round boulders, and so from the Eastern Cape, from Kokstad right up until probably Plettenberg Bay, you're hunting completely differently as you progress through the province. So, but as from what I've experienced, especially the Queenstown, Tokstad, moving up into the Cathcart, Stadtheim area, those kudu bulls are a lot more prominent than what I have experienced down towards the coast, the Committee's Fort Beaufort areas. Excuse me. So preparation. Now, I mentioned earlier, and I mentioned it in 2 podcasts ago, a very good friend of mine always used to tell me, preparation is always 90% of the success, and 10% is always all about knowledge. So equipment, look, so over the years, like I said, I've learned the hard way. I've hunted kudu with standard 10x42s, and as time has progressed, frustration has crept in, and I've always seen a little bit more on how the other side of things gets done. So in this point, I would say having the correct equipment will definitely set you apart from majority of the hunters. So look at getting yourself setting up with a great spotting scope. A spotting scope is invaluable in most, if not all, scenarios when you're hunting, especially spiraled horned animals. When judging them from a distance is always a little bit tricky just through your regular binoculars, and having the spotting scope just adds a little bit of elevation, and it closes that judgment period. So because majority of the time, once you spot a bull and you can judge him from a distance whether that's a good bull to go after or not, not much is going to confuse you once you get down to stalking, because you just have to make sure that you keep your eyes on that specific bull. Setting up key vantage points is a must. Like I said, generally once you start seeing kudu, and especially if they've settled down in the heat of the rut, you will generally find them in those sort of areas. So scan your area for good glassing points, and get yourself into position a little bit earlier, so because you're going to be setting yourself up during the darker periods of the day in the morning, getting to those spots early and understanding what is your surroundings from those points of vantage, from those vantage points, is very, very important for a successful hunt. And then of course playing the wind, and then understanding patterns. Now for me, especially now not going over to the shows, for me, one of the most important things now that I spend a lot of my time on during the weekends is, like I said in the preparation episode of the podcast, was making contact with landowners, farmers, cattle farmers, sheep farmers, whatever it may be, and spending a little bit of time on that ranch, on that farm. Go along there, make sure that you make good solid connections. They know what your personality is all about, but most importantly, get out into the field, go and see where good potential spots would be for big bulls that will hang around water sources, good grazing areas. Find your vantage points and spend a bit of time there, because more often than not you might run into these bulls, and you can actually spot them along the way and make sure that it's all worthwhile. So make sure that you get familiarized with the areas you're going to be hunting, and this is key, and this is very, very important. So when it comes down to equipment, I see a massive thing there's been a trend that has kind of crept into the Eastern Cape. Some say it's good, some say it's bad, but long range shooting, right? So the topic around, I'm planning to have a friend of mine come onto the podcast and talk about long range shooting and some of the benefits of it. I actually had a discussion today with Wayne Dell. He's been on the podcast a number of times, and we had a very simple conversation about different disciplines within the hunting industry. Is it good or bad? For me, long range shooting has its place. It really does, with the right equipment and ethics involved. Now, there are a lot of conversations that are happening around game farms. And again, I don't see this as a bad thing. A lot of guys are going to have their different opinions, which is fair. But I think as a hunting community as a whole, I think no matter what the discipline you try or you choose to hunt a specific antelope, respect that discipline of your fellow hunter. Because if we can start respecting one another in our different disciplines, it really makes the industry a much more pleasant experience and pleasant place to be a part of. Our conversations become a lot less disgruntled and more positive and passionate about something that we all love doing and we all want to preserve. So to get back to the point of long range shooting, it has become more prominent in the Eastern Cape hunting facility, where guys are shooting kudu bulls from 600 yards as far as 600 yards, 650 yards. I've seen two bulls being shot at 650 yards. I don't say it's a bad thing again, but they have got the correct equipment. So if that is something that you look, from what I have experienced from those distances, it does cut. If you are on a 7-day safari and a kudu is part of the package, everyone knows, or everyone should know, that the pressure to get the grey ghost in 7 days is huge. It's immense. So being able to shoot those distances cuts that time down, because more often than not, a kudu is in one of the hardest places to stalk. And like I said, when you are fighting against the time from early morning as they're grazing to their comfort points, and then especially like in the later parts of the evening when you're fighting against daylight, time is a massive factor. So being able to shoot those distances, you limit that time immensely, massively, which is always a positive. So if that is a route that you guys would like to consider, I really suggest having the correct equipment. So make sure that you've got some incredible scopes. There's some wonderful brands out there that anyone can be a part of and utilize. Make sure that you guys have got the correct caliber in the Eastern Cape and South Africa. I've seen a lot of people, and I hope I don't get flagged for this, but a really popular caliber to hunt kudu, especially at distance, is a 6.5 Creedmoor. And a lot of guys I've only ever seen a success with a 6.5. Unfortunately, due to the national laws, the minimum caliber is a 270. Now, I'm not going to get involved with 6.5, whether it's ethical or not ethical. I'll have my different opinion on that. But as far as any individual hunter, a 270 is your minimal caliber. So just keep that in mind when hunting these animals. Make sure that you kit your rifle out with top-notch glass, and it's as accurate as can be, especially at those distances. And if your client is coming out, or if you are the client and you are coming out, make sure that you practice those distances on a regular basis. And this is why professional hunting communication is so important with the client coming out, is to get the feeling, because a lot of us PHs, we don't like hunting those sort of distances, and we would prefer to put in the stalk and all that sort of stuff. But there are really good professional hunters that prefer hunting at those distances. So the more you can get into that sort of conversation with your professional hunter, the easier it will put you, the peace of mind it will put you at when coming over and having this experience. Because ultimately, I think a kudu should be on everyone's hunting package. So yeah, to put it into perspective, we've covered a lot. Like I said, I'm probably a little bit biased when it comes to this topic, and especially as far as the Eastern Cape is concerned when it comes to hunting. But my final thoughts are, if you are looking at coming out to South Africa, whether it's your first, your third, or your 20th safari, there is no doubt that the spiraled horned grey ghost is going to be on your hunting list. The kudu has earned its place as one of the most I've lost my complete track here. The kudu has earned its place as one of the most elusive animals in the hunting world. From breathtaking beauty, every encounter with the grey ghost is something very, very special. While tactics and theories may vary among different professional hunters and hunters alike, one thing remains constant: the respect, the admiration we hold for this iconic species is something very, very special. And I can't reiterate this enough. Preparation is key, because you deserve it, and it shows a lot of respect to one of South Africa's most iconic species. Guys, that's another short, sweet, touching, quick topic to discuss. The platform is open, so please, if you would like any further discussion on this, I would love to have with anyone that would like to discuss this further. And if you guys would like to jump on the podcast and maybe discuss this topic a little bit further, feel that maybe didn't add in a certain tactic or speciality or something like that, please, by all means, I'm here to learn. And a lot of my listeners are here to learn as well. So if I can learn from you guys, why not? I appreciate it, guys. It's been an incredible journey. I've learned a lot, and I carry on learning, and I've had some very, very special conversations in the past couple of weeks, and I'm very excited, hopefully, for the next couple of episodes of the podcast, because we've got some really cool guests coming on. So we're just fine-tuning the final thoughts that side. So, guys, to everyone heading along to the sheep show, I think it's this weekend in Reno. Good luck. Enjoy it. If you are there as an exhibitor, I hope you guys have a cracker time. And if you are there looking to purchase a safari, good luck. Enjoy it. It's a process. Your hunt starts there. Remember that. So enjoy every single minute of it. Excuse me. My name is Dylan Love. And if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.